Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today I'll share with you about hybrid work guidelines, and specifically how few companies actually have clear, good policies for hybrid work guidelines. Now, why are they important? Well, they provide a clear expectation for employees to navigate the world of hybrid work. And here, companies are establishing stable policies that don't change with leadership. Now, if you don't have stable policies, that creates a lot of problems. That creates problems of employees not sharing expectations of leadership, that they don't know what they plan for, and when new leaders come in and they say, hey, change things around, go back to the office or go back home or whatever it is, that creates a lot of problems. And that's what we saw with Disney when Bob Iger came in after replacing the previous CEO. He came back in and he said, hey, everyone needs to go to the office 4 days a week from its previously flexible schedule. And what happened with Twitter, which was still named Twitter, then was renamed into X, when Elon Musk took over and he changed its previously flexible work policies into coming into the office full-time or with those sort of demands. And we've seen that time and time again when new leaders come in and they change office policies, return to office policies, hybrid policies, and that creates a lot of disillusionment, disenchantment, poor morale, serious issues for retention, recruitment, productivity. So this is not something you want to see happen with just new leaders coming in and completely changing things around. That's why you want to have stable policies, predictable, clear policies of what's going forward. Now, how do actually organizations approach policies around hybrid work? So Mercer, which is an HR organization consulting firm, found that in a survey of 749 organizations, 48%, just about half, they rely on informal, ambiguous guidelines. That, of course, creates a lot of problems, does not create good, clear, shared expectations. 17% take a completely hands-off approach, which is basically telling their employees to do whatever they want. At least employees know that, and that's better than informal and ambiguous guidelines. If employees know that, hey, you do whatever you want, or team managers are told that you do whatever you want with your team, that's at least providing some clarity. Only 34% rely on best practices, clear and transparent formal rules for remote work. So that is the best approach, having clear and transparent formal rules on remote work. This lack of communication is something that really harms recruitment, retention, as well as morale and engagement. So why do companies struggle to convey hybrid policies well? You might be surprised to know that companies do struggle. A fishbowl survey of 7,300 professionals that asked about whether they understand their company's hybrid work plan found that just about half understood their company's guidelines, but just about another half really did not. That's not a good outcome. A lack of understanding, that ambiguity, that informality, that is not a good approach. Now, we know that HR leaders see hybrid work as a huge recruiting advantage. According to a report by IWG of HR leaders, it found that 95% see hybrid work as an effective recruiting tool, 60% believe hybrid work boosts retention, and 80% agree it helps increase employee satisfaction. And we know that that is very beneficial from the perspective of HR leaders, but if you don't have clear guidelines, this, of course, harms worker engagement. I'll give an example. So a mid-sized IT services company which allowed hybrid and remote work, but lacked clear guidelines and expectations, had a number of bad consequences. And this was before I started working with them as a consultant, and this is what I found when I started working with them. There was confusion and resentment among team members. Some felt overworked, others weren't very well utilized. So that contributed to high turnover rates and difficulties in attracting top talent. And that's something we had to work on in addressing the situation, this kind of baseline. About some other impacts, let me share with you about a large financial services company that didn't have clear guidelines for remote work. Again, another example where I came in as a consultant, they asked me to help them out. It's lack of expectations and communication. So what I saw as a result of doing surveys and focus group, there was a lack of clear expectations for communication, collaboration that undermined people's ability to stay on the same page and meet guidelines. So there was poor coordination as a result. That caused a decline in productivity and morale, and top performers were not so eager to work at the company. Let's talk about the importance of guidelines for retention and recruitment. One of my clients, those two clients did not allow me to share about who they were. I can share with you about another client that did, the University of Southern California's Information Sciences Institute. And I consulted with them to help develop their hybrid work guidelines, which were placed on the website's Join Us section. So the Join Us section, of course, the recruitment section, their HR director said that he found the guidelines quite helpful for talent recruitment. And of course, they helped for retention as well. And that is an example where they helped in recruiting data scientists and retaining the current ones they had, because if the organization made their guidelines public, well, that's a good sign that they'll stick to them. Now, let's talk about the importance of formal hybrid work guidelines. These guidelines outline expectations for office presence, communication, collaboration, work hours, as well as other dynamics. So these communication guidelines, for example, help ensure that everyone is on the same page with regular check-ins, virtual team meetings, what you actually do, some of these best practices. How about collaboration? What kind of collaboration tools do you use? What kind of video conferencing tools do you use? What kind of project management tools do you use? Information Sciences Institute, for example, used everything under the sun, and then we worked on standardizing those and helping them figure out tools that they would be using in a more clear manner that other people across the organization can share. And you want to train staff on how to use them, to set some expectations for availability and teamwork. When are you available? What kind of teamwork is involved in doing your various activities? And consider various guidelines for work hours to avoid the pressure on staff being constantly available. So for example, you could say something like, well, your general work hours are going to be from anywhere from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. when this is the time when people might be expecting you to collaborate, but the 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. might be focus time, and so might be 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's when you'll work on your individual tasks. And the other times are going to be times when you work in collaboration. And of course, that's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can also do various house chores and other things that you could fit during those time slots. But from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., you'll be available for collaboration, internal meetings, quick email exchanges, and so on. Otherwise, there's going to be constant pressure on staff to be fully available. And that leads to burnout and resentment and reduced productivity, which harms retention, of course. Something that you want to think about is setting a way when you're sending an email. If you happen to be working past hours or on weekends, you can set emails to be scheduled for the next working day so that people don't feel like, oh, if my colleagues or my bosses are working in the evenings, I need to be responding to them. So this lack of clear guidelines for engagement, it actually harms staff engagement with their work. And so think about strategies for fostering engagement, like virtual team building activities and regular communication from leaders, which would actually help foster engagement, improve engagement in your team. Make sure that the guidelines are adaptable, so they should be flexible. They shouldn't just be set it and forget it. Make sure to evaluate how well they're working, review them, update them regularly to reflect the best practices that are changing, and we're finding new things, and changing employee needs. Make sure to involve employees in creating your hybrid work guidelines. This can help in a number of ways. You'll tailor your guidelines to organization-specific needs and team-specific needs. There should be organization-wide guidelines, but also each team should have its team-level agreements. And it helps create staff buy-in for the guidelines, which helps provide commitment. So then you want to provide training and resources and guidelines after creating them. Create the guidelines and provide some training on them and resources around them. All right, everyone. So I hope you now see the importance of clear, transparent hybrid work guidelines for communication, collaboration, time management. This lack of guidelines is going to just lead to confusion, resentment, high turnover, and undermine recruitment efforts. So as a leader, you want to recognize the benefits of hybrid work guidelines and establish them to have good support for success of hybrid work at your organization. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps other people discover the show, and it helps us improve the show.